Most people only understand this truth after the damage has already been done. The relationship they fought the hardest to keep often becomes the one that wounds them the deepest. And the reason it is so confusing is because of something we were taught growing up. We were told that real love requires sacrifice. That if something matters enough, you fight for it. You push through the difficulty. You endure the pain. You refuse to give up. And in many situations, that advice is good. But there is a dangerous misunderstanding hidden inside it. Because not every relationship is meant to be fought for. Sometimes the very thing you are trying to preserve is the very thing God is trying to remove. And when that happens, the battle you think is about saving love is actually about losing yourself. There is a powerful difference between standing for a relationship that God is building and desperately holding on to someone God is trying to release from your life. But here is the difficult part. God rarely interrupts your life with a loud announcement. There is no booming voice from heaven saying, "Leave this relationship now." Instead, God usually speaks through signals, quiet warnings, small disruptions, subtle discomforts, moments that do not make sense at first, but later become painfully obvious, like fog slowly lifting from a mountain. At first, everything looks unclear, but once the fog disappears, you wonder how you ever missed what was standing right in front of you. There are several signs God often uses when someone is not meant to stay in your life. Sadly, most people only recognize them after they have been emotionally drained, spiritually exhausted, and deeply wounded. The first sign is this. You begin to lose your peace. This is usually the earliest warning God sends. And ironically, it is the one people ignore the most, because it rarely appears as dramatic chaos. Sometimes nothing looks wrong on the surface. There are no major fights, no obvious betrayal, no clear disaster, but inside you feel something strange. A quiet discomfort you cannot explain, like a low humming sound constantly playing in the background of your spirit. You try to silence it. You pray it away. You tell yourself you are overthinking, but the uneasiness stays. Scripture gives us a powerful insight about this. Colossians 3:15 says, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts." The word rule in the original Greek has an interesting meaning. It refers to an umpire in a sporting event, the person who makes the final call, safe or out, valid or invalid. God designed peace to function as the referee of your soul. When something is aligned with His will, peace tends to remain. But when something is wrong, peace quietly steps away. You can have chemistry with someone. You can have shared history. You can feel attraction, excitement, and emotional intensity. But if God's peace is absent, something essential is missing. Many people confuse emotional turbulence with passion. They call anxiety excitement. They call confusion love. But God's presence does not create confusion. 1 Corinthians 14.33 says, "God is not the author of confusion, but of peace." Real love does not feel like drowning. It feels like breathing. When a relationship constantly steals your peace, it may not be love you are fighting for. It may be a warning you are ignoring. The second sign appears when doors repeatedly close no matter how hard you try to keep them open. Plans constantly fall apart. Important conversations turn into misunderstandings. Progress seems impossible. Every step forward somehow leads to 2 steps back. At first, you assume it is just normal relationship struggle. After all, every relationship faces obstacles. But there is a difference between normal difficulty and divine resistance. Proverbs 16:9 says, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Notice something important. God does not promise to support every direction we choose. He promises to direct our steps. And sometimes His direction leads us away from someone, not toward them. But many people misunderstand this moment. Instead of listening, they push harder. They pray longer. They fight more aggressively to keep the relationship alive. But faith is not forcing open doors that God has closed. Sometimes what feels like persistence is actually resistance against God's protection. Imagine trying to push through a door while someone stronger is holding it shut from the other side. The harder you push, the more exhausted you become. But the resistance is not meant to punish you. It is meant to protect you. Sometimes the exhaustion you feel from trying to make things work is your spirit recognizing a battle you were never meant to fight. The third sign comes through the voices of wise people around you. This one is difficult to accept because emotions make us defensive. When we love someone, we want others to see them the same way we do. But God often places people in our lives who can see what our emotions are hiding. Proverbs 11:14 says, "Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in the abundance of counselors there is safety." Your family might notice patterns of disrespect. Your close friends might notice inconsistency. Spiritual mentors might recognize deeper incompatibilities in values or faith. Meanwhile, you may be focused on who the person could become. But relationships cannot survive on potential. They survive on patterns. You are not in a relationship with someone's future. You are in a relationship with their current character. Of course, not every opinion matters. But when several trustworthy, spiritually mature people raise the same concerns, it may not be coincidence. It may be confirmation. The fourth sign is subtle, but deeply dangerous. You slowly begin to lose yourself. This rarely happens overnight. It happens through small compromises. You stop talking about your faith because it makes them uncomfortable. You distance yourself from people who challenge the relationship. You excuse behaviors that once clearly violated your values. Gradually, you begin adjusting your identity just to maintain peace. But here is the problem. Peace built on self-abandonment is not peace. It is surrender. 2 Corinthians 6.14 asks, "What fellowship can light have with darkness?" This verse is not about condemning people. It is about direction. If someone consistently pulls you away from your spiritual growth, they are not walking in the same direction. The right relationship will not weaken your relationship with God. It will strengthen it. The person meant for you will not ask you to minimize your faith, hide your calling, or silence your convictions. They will honor them. If your closeness with God has declined since entering the relationship, that may be God quietly pointing toward the exit, because no relationship should ever replace the place that belongs to God alone. The fifth sign is one of the most heartbreaking, and yet one of the clearest. You begin to feel deeply alone, even while being with them. You sit next to them, but feel miles apart. You try to express your heart, but feel unheard. You crave connection, but receive indifference. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10 says, "Two are better than one. If either of them falls, one can help the other up." What happens when the person beside you becomes the one who keeps letting you fall? Loneliness inside a relationship is one of the most painful experiences a person can have, because love is supposed to bring connection, safety, and support. When those things disappear, the relationship becomes emotionally hollow. Sometimes God allows that loneliness to intensify, not as punishment, but as clarity. He allows you to feel the emptiness, so you can recognize that staying is costing you more than leaving ever would. God would rather see you single and spiritually whole than attached and slowly breaking. When God removes someone from your life, it is not always about taking something away. Often, it is about making room for something better, something healthier, something aligned with His purpose. Jeremiah 29:11 reminds us, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Sometimes God's protection looks like separation. Sometimes His love looks like removal. Sometimes His mercy looks like heartbreak today, so you can experience healing tomorrow. So if your life feels like it is falling apart right now, if peace has disappeared, if doors keep closing, if something deep inside you knows this relationship is draining your spirit, consider the possibility that God is not abandoning you. He may be rescuing you, because the person God intends for your life will not confuse your spirit. They will confirm your direction. They will not compete with God's voice in your life. They will strengthen it, and the love that comes from God will never require you to betray the person He created you to be. Sometimes God closes doors to protect your future. If you want more faith-centered insights like this, subscribe to the channel.